Let's Talk World Show presented by Clickaway Creators. Today we have Dr. Aman Trehan with us. We are pleased to have you with us today. Aman is a seasoned pharmaceutical professional with around 15 years of experience in intellectual property, product pipeline, and strategy. He has strong background in patents, product portfolio management, and business development opportunities with strong leadership experience. He is PhD in pharmaceutical science and has multiple patents and publications to his credit. He started his career with Ranbaxy Labs, followed by leadership positions in Wockhardt, Alembic, Zydus, and Novel Labs. In his last assignment with Lupin, that is the fourth largest generic company in the US by prescriptions, he was the site head of IP at Lupin's Somerset, New Jersey site. Currently, he is vice president and head of intellectual property and product strategy at Odin Pharmaceuticals, Somerset, New Jersey, United States. He has received many awards and recognition, including Hatch Waxman Impact Case of the Year, awarded by Legal Media Group at New York, Gold Patent Awards for Wockhardt and Zydus. Recently, he got selected for the Top 50 IP Leaders Awarded 2020. He has successfully handled many Hatch-Waxman litigations during his career in different companies. He has been on the advisory board of many international conferences, as well as speaker, panelist, and co-chair at many international IP events. Thank you so much for joining us, Aman. We are pleased to have you with us today.
Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be a part of this discussion.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to go ahead and ask our series of questions. Our first question, and our viewers would like to know, is a brief about your personal and professional background.
Sure. So I will start with my personal background first. I grew up in the city beautiful of India, which is known as Chandigarh. And my better half is also from Chandigarh. And I'm blessed with two lovely kids, one boy and one girl. And currently we are settled in the United States. So as far as my educational and professional background is concerned, I did my bachelor's, master's, and doctorate in pharmacy from University Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Punjab University, Chandigarh. And as you already mentioned in my introduction, I began my career with Ranbaxy Labs after completing my master's. And Ranbaxy was one of the most biggest pharmaceutical company at one point of time. And it was part of Sun Pharmaceuticals, which is another topmost pharma company of India. So at that time, I know every pharma graduate used to aim for a job in Ranbaxy.
Right.
There is a saying in the pharma world that if you have not worked in Ranbaxy, your pharma career is incomplete. So you have to work in Ranbaxy. So after working there for a couple of years, I got fellowship for my doctorate in pharmacy. It was difficult for me to decide whether to leave a job of Ranbaxy and continue a job, or should I go for a PhD? And I was engaged at that time, so my would-be better half suggested that I should go for a PhD. And so I know the rules of happy marriage. So what she said, and I pursued my PhD. So after completing my PhD, I joined Wockhardt in the area of intellectual property. So taking a step back, just to give you a brief change in my professional career, when I was in Ranbaxy, I was in the formulation development. So when I joined Wockhardt, it was an intellectual property. It was a big change because IP was a booming field in India at that time, and only few companies in India, they had intellectual property departments.
Right.
And Wockhardt was about to start their IP department. So it was a good point for me to learn and build everything from scratch. So my technical knowledge helped me a lot. So I always believe that you should be techno-legal rather than being only legal if you want to be a successful in intellectual property.
Absolutely.
So, after Wockhardt, I made a couple of moves in other well-known pharma companies like Alembic, Zydus. Before I came back to Wockhardt, I was called back by my boss at Wockhardt again for a bigger profile, including intellectual property and product pipeline. So after working at Wockhardt for a couple of years again, I got an opportunity to have intellectual property and product pipeline for a US-based company, which is Novel Labs, based out of New Jersey.
Right.
It was a great opportunity to head IP and product pipeline there. So I decided to move from India to United States with my family. It was the biggest move of my life as I was moving from the other part of the world with my family and hoping that everything goes well. So by Almighty's grace, it worked well. And later on, Novel got acquired by Lupin, as you mentioned, another biggest pharmaceutical company of India. And I became the site head of intellectual property at New Jersey location. And recently, I moved to Open Pharmaceuticals, another pharma company, as a vice president of intellectual property, product strategy, and a part of business development as well. So during all these stints with companies, as already mentioned, you have received many awards and accolades. I think the recent one is the Top 50 Affiliator Award. So I think that's brief about my professional background.
That is just amazing, and it hits such a personal connection because I have my roots from Chandigarh, and all my family, like my relatives, their first job was with Ranbaxy. So this
That's great.
hits home.
The pharma world, we always say that pharma world is very small. So now there's a connection I can see.
Indeed. So, okay, the next question that we have for you is how the pharmaceutical sector in United States region is impacted due to COVID-19, and what solutions do you foresee from a legal perspective?
Yeah. I think this is a very hot topic nowadays, probably. So COVID-19 has impacted everyone's life. So I would say from both on the personal front as well as on the industry front. So every industry has been impacted by COVID-19, leading to the sharp effect in the global economy. And the pharma industry is no exception to it. And especially during these unprecedented times, pharmaceutical companies, they're responding to the rapid challenges arising from disruption in the supply chain, especially.
Right.
And the need to change business strategies. The disruptive effects of the coronavirus has placed enormous strain, I would say, on the global supply chain, leading to shortages of the drugs. And in the United States, approximately 70% of the active pharmaceutical ingredients, which we call APIs, that are used in domestic products, are foreign sourced, mainly from China and India. So basically, India and China, these two countries, they account for about more than 70% of the medicines taken by Americans. And India supplies about 40% generic prescription drugs to the United States. India, in turn, I would say, depend on China for about 80% of those active ingredients,
yes,
intermediates. So that is one aspect. I think besides impacting the supply chain part of active pharmaceutical ingredient, finished dosage forms, it also has a negative impact on the research and development activities of the pharma companies, their future pipeline, manufacturing operations, leading to the delay in the ANDA filings, the new drug filings, and hence there will be a delay in the launch of new drugs. I think I would say probably all over the world, including United States as well. Because many clinical trials, they have been placed on hold, so leading to delays of the new products. And approximately 20% of the studies are conducted in China for these clinical trials. FDA is actively responding. The FDA, as you know, is the biggest food yeah. So it is actively responding to this crisis, and by changing policies, issuing guidances for the industry, even offering virtual plant inspections. So FDA is speeding up the approval process by providing quick approvals, especially for the drugs which are required for the treatment of COVID-19. And in my experience, I have seen in the last 2 months or so, FDA has given quick approvals about 7 to 8 generic versions of some very critical drugs which are being used in the hospitals for the treatment of COVID patients. FDA has taken an unprecedented actions in these challenging times. And FDA is working closely with the companies to expedite the clinical trials of COVID-19 vaccines as well. So this was like basically in general from the pharma industry perspective. Leading into the legal perspective, I would say from legal perspective also, there's a lot of impact of COVID-19. Specifically, I would say it has disrupted the Hatch-Waxman litigation schedules. Although now it seems that that seems to be clearing up due to court shutdowns and some litigation delays are there. The COVID-19 leaves many Hatch-Waxman litigants even wondering like how to factor the potential for the delayed A&D approvals for both ongoing and the future litigations. Some NDA holders have even attempted to use, like there's always like people use to their benefit as well. So some NDA holders, they have even attempted to use the addressing COVID-19 to delay the litigation. And in some instances, discovery from the companies, specifically in India and China, has been delayed due to lockdowns in these countries. And from the legal solutions perspective, I would say that there's some legal considerations, though there are many considerations, but of course, which parties involved in the litigation they're considering nowadays. It includes agreement to maintain status quo,
Yes.
Seeking extension for their 30-month stay wherever applicable when they have been sued, seeking injunction from the courts to avoid at-risk launches. And ultimately, I would say in short that pharma companies, they are responding and they still have to respond. They are to recuperate and succeed.
No, of course that is there. I think excellent point. There is still time, but then at the same time, having said that, there's an urgency and a need for, what needs to be done by the pharmaceutical companies. So I'm 100% in sync with you. So my next question for you would be, why did you switch your career from core research and development to intellectual property, and how difficult was that a change for you?
Great question. So it was not an easy decision, specifically to move from research and development to intellectual property. And especially, I would say 15 years ago, because I think around 15 years ago, I switched from hardcore research and development from Ranbaxy to Wockhardt. And that too, when I completed my PhD in the hardcore research and development. So my PhD is basically in the formulation development. And so I remember they were like, when I went for a job in, I was getting a job in Ranbaxy at that time, once again after doing my PhD in formulation development. So, but I specifically chose intellectual property, and the reason was that I would say that during those times, intellectual property was not well developed field in many pharma companies. Only the big pharma companies like Ranbaxy, Dr. Reddy's, and there are very few companies who had their full intellectual property departments. And most of the pharma graduates who are doing their PhDs or master's degree, they will opt for the formulation development jobs, being more like you should go for that job. There's only one option in there. But during my PhD, I realized that this is an upcoming area, and there's like not many people are opting for it. And it's a good area where very few people opt, and there is very less competition. And if you excel in this area, there are more chances of growth. That is, of course, one of the criteria. And secondly, I would say, while working in the research and development, I realized that as a scientist, you are just focused on your own projects.
Yes.
Like you are given a handful of projects, you are working on those projects, and you are not exposed to a variety of projects. So whereas when you're working in the intellectual property field, you get an exposure to multitude projects. You deal with hundreds of projects which all the scientists are working on. It gives you more insights into the pharma world.
Yes.
So basically your world becomes bigger. Your scope of knowledge increases. And third, I believe that once you have the technical knowledge, as I mentioned earlier, you can better handle intellectual property as compared to a person who only has a legal knowledge. So it was like multiple factors, all these factors combined together, I thought that I should make a move into intellectual property. And it was difficult for me because I have to learn all the intellectual property laws while doing my job. So the expectations were double from me that I have to do my daily job of intellectual property, as well as to have to learn the laws of different countries, especially the law of the United States. and to lead my own company also in different areas of IP, to build a team as well. So I was learning as well as performing on my job. So all in all, it was a difficult challenge, but I think I would say after putting up some burning a midnight oil, I would say, or putting hard efforts initially, I would say it paid ultimately.
No, but I think you aced it. And piggybacking off of the topic, what is your advice to people who want to pick up intellectual property as their career in the pharma industry?
Right. I would say that there is one very common notion in the intellectual property field, which I have seen, that most of the people in the pharma industry, they consider that intellectual property is a service department to R&D or pharma. I don't think so, from my personal experience. It all depends on your perspective, how you want to excel in your area.
Right.
So my advice is to believe, I would say, there's a very well-known saying I think it's by an American philosopher: the best way to predict future is to create it. And to me, I think one way of creating your future is creating through the intellectual property and the product strategy, because I would say this is the backbone of an industry. You can expand your role in different ways. So you can lead intellectual property, and since you have a knowledge of patents, you can lead the product portfolio of the company. You can lead the business development as well. So all these different departments, they are the very critical departments of the company. So don't consider yourself as only being a service department. You will be servicing your department only if you're doing one scope of work, like intellectual property.
Right.
But if you think from a bigger perspective, you can be helpful to regulatory affairs. You can lead a department of regulatory affairs, intellectual property, business development, product portfolio. And product portfolio nowadays, if you will see, it's a big thing. So if the company has a good pipeline, only then you can add a value in that company. So I would say, all in all, my advice to the people who are opting for an IP career is that think it from a bigger picture. Think out of the box, and don't think it is only intellectual property. It is intellectual property, product strategy, leading the strategy of your company, picking right products, applying the right legal strategy, and guiding your company in the right direction.
There are just so many nuances, and if people look at it with that perspective, I'm sure they will actually be able to understand and take advantage of it at the same time.
Right.
So Dr. Trehan, my last question for you today would be that as a legal professional, what are the 3 core values that you truly believe in?
Very hard question, actually. Because I would say there are many core values which I believe, and it's very hard to pick 3. But still, I think given the time frame here, if I have to pick 3 core values, I would say the first one is integrity. So integrity is one of the fundamental values. It's the hallmark of a person and should be the bedrock of your foundation, as it will define who you are before even allow others to know about you.
Yes.
And I think there are subsets of integrity, I would say, like honesty, trust, and ethics. They are central to the integrity.
Right.
Second is passion, I would say. Passion is very important to have a drive, passion for excellence, passion for innovation, passion for continuous learning. So you need to have a passion in your life to achieve something in your life. And the third most important core value is respect. Treat everyone, including yourself, with respect. Respect means that you accept somebody for who they are, even when they are different from you, or you don't agree with them. So respect in your relationships will build the feeling of trust, safety, and well-being. So I think these are the 3 strong pillars for your growth and your personal traits as well.
So thank you so much, Aman, for sharing such great insights with us. We look forward to having chat with you again in the future on some other industry trending topics. when it comes to the international IP industry. For our viewers, if you like this chat, please like and share this video and subscribe to Clickaway Creators YouTube channel to appreciate what we do. And we have more coming from the industry leaders. This is Prachi for Let's Talk World.